Cobra Kai Season 3 had Sam and Robby replicate Daniel's story arc from Cobra Kai, Karate Kid 3. So we had, if you guys don't know, the original plan was to have Kreese train Daniel in Cobra Kai 3 before they brought in the character of Terry Silver. And because of Marion Cove's limited schedule, and they had to go with an alternative character, and that's why he was in so few parts of the movie. And in that movie, Daniel is training with Cobra Kai because him and Mr. Miyagi had a falling out, because Mr. Miyagi did not want him to compete, and Daniel did. He did not want to give in to the bullying of Mike Barnes. Now, we have a similar situation with Robby here, right? There's a falling out between Daniel and Robby, because Robby feels betrayed by Daniel for calling the cops and putting him in juvie. And then he also has a falling out with his dad. He seemed to be reconnecting at the pantry where they serve food to the homeless and less fortunate. But near the end, Johnny kind of screws up and blames him for Miguel's injury, and says it in a very undiplomatic way, which kind of ends that for that time. And Kreese kind of sneaks in like a snake and visits Robby. Obviously at that point Robby's still not really gonna go over to his side, and what puts him over the edge is when he gets out of juvie, he sees Sam and Miguel doing karate and being happy and whatnot, and he assumes the worst. And he's probably right to a degree. I mean, let's face it, Sam has caused a lot of the issues on this show between Cobra Kai and the Miyagi-Dos. And so that kind of was a tipping point for him to join Cobra Kai, right? And this time, instead of Terry Silver, you actually get to make that correction and have a former Miyagi-Do student be trained by Kreese, as was originally planned in the Karate Kid 3. The only difference is it seems that so far, as we've seen at the end of Season 3, it's going to be a much darker tone. It's going to be a much less of a pullback at the last moment and more of an all-in situation with Robby. Now this leads into the question of the second part of Karate Kid 3, the fear that Daniel faced with Mike Barnes, the fear that he had to overcome when Mr. Miyagi told him that it's okay to be afraid. But you don't want to let that fear. I mean, it's okay to lose, but you don't want to let that fear take over. And so Sam had that same situation. She was traumatized due to what happened to Miguel and fighting Tori. That she struggles throughout the season with this fear, right? And she tries to combat that fear by being very aggressive, using Miyagi-Do training and going after the Cobra Kais on multiple occasions. Once at the laser park or the arcade place, which she kind of, when she sees Tori, she kind of freezes, and as a result, Dimitri's arm gets broken by Hawk, who, Hawk has his own conflict throughout this season, which we may talk about in the future, we'll see. But for Hawk, breaks his arm, and then we have this continuous theme, and this reflects and parallels Daniel's arc in Karate Kid 3, and we see Daniel take her to fishing and then take her to the All Valley and talk about that experience that he had, that it doesn't, it's not about whether you're afraid or not. You're always going to have that fear, but the point is not to let it take control. And that really helps Sam to kind of be on her way of overcoming that fear. And so when they had that final fight at Daniel's house, and Amanda's house, and then they face off in the dojo that Daniel has, after Tori breaks Mr. Miyagi's photo, she looks at Mr. Miyagi's photo and remembers the lesson. She closes her eyes, focuses, and overcomes that fear, similar to how Daniel did, right? It doesn't matter if you lose, it's about not giving in to fear. And she picks up the bow staff, dodges the nunchucks from Tori, and they fight. Right? It doesn't really end with anyone really winning. It's just him with having the advantage, but it does end that way. And she overcomes that fear, right? She's not afraid anymore. So that's kind of the parallel and story arc of Robby and Samantha for season 3. And I'm curious where this will go in season 4. The writers do a great job of doing parallels and homages to the old movies while also continuing to develop and strengthen our new characters and our old characters as well in new situations. So I really do like this. Let's see where this goes next season. Hopefully they'll have more balance, but you know, we will see. With that being said, guys, please subscribe, like, and comment this video if you enjoyed for more content like this.